From the heart of Hawkeye Nation comes the show that dissects the plays, debates the calls, and celebrates the victories. This isn't just a podcast. This is your unfiltered access to the mind of two diehard fans. They live and breathe black and gold, and they're here to give you the honest, raw takes you won't find anywhere else. Get ready for deep dive analysis, passionate debate, and a unique perspective on the team you love. This is Punting is Winning with JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye fans, to another episode of Punting is Winning, the All Iowa podcast. We are your hosts, JD and Keith. Welcome back to post-regular season, or more basketball season. I don't even know what you want to call it at this point. It's kind of that in-between conference play and bowl games. We had our Heisman Trophy segment happened over the weekend as well. Go into that, but first let's talk about the question of the week last week, which was, do you feel that Notre Dame should have gotten in at 2 losses over a 3-loss Alabama? Surprisingly, nobody answered the question, but I think we can probably take a stab at that. Go ahead and give me your thoughts first.
I agree. I think that I think Notre Dame should have been in over Alabama, but at what cost? To me, I guess at that point, then, do you take a Notre Dame and leave out Miami, or do you leave Miami and Notre Dame in? Yeah, I think Notre Dame should have been over Alabama. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. What you're setting a precedent is saying that, well, the conference championship game doesn't matter if you play in the SEC.
Doesn't mean
if you lose that, it doesn't matter. So you could go in at 9-3 and lose it, be 9-4, and still get into the playoffs because it doesn't matter at that point.
As long as you're not the ACC.
As long as you're not the ACC, the Big 12, or even the Big 10. Honestly.
No, it's basically yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. That perceived notion that they're so much better than everybody else. You know, that perceived arrogance. But you'll never get that out. You'll never beat that out of a fan base or a conference. So there's no sense in trying.
As long as it's allowed to happen, it will continue to happen.
Oh yeah. So, and they just said they set the precedent this year.
Yeah. Well,
they said that they basically said, if you don't play in the SEC, it matters. But if you play in the SEC, it doesn't matter what you do in a conference championship.
And probably not surprising, it'll be a 1-year precedent because it won't fit. Sure. It won't fit what they want next year, so it won't work.
Yeah, because somebody else will hit that same parameter next year, and they don't deserve to be in.
Yeah, exactly,
because they're from the Big 12, or they're from the ACC, or they're from the Big 10.
Yep.
We should get our 8-4 guy in before them.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's kind of the landscape of how things are right now, and it's unfortunate.
As far as I'm concerned, the SEC can go off and branch on their own and do whatever the hell they want to do. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't like to even watch them anymore because it's so ingrained that they're so much better than everybody when they're not.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay. So do you have a new question for this week?
Yeah. New question of the week is, when we had the Heisman Trophy ceremony on Saturday night, do you believe that the right player got the trophy? Do you believe that the person who deserved it got it?
I didn't get to watch the celebration.
I watched the last 10 minutes of it.
So how did did it end up being Mendoza first, then Pavia second?
Yes.
Then no, they didn't get it right, because Pavia should not even be in the top 3. Julian saying could have chipped over him.
He was last of the 4. And there was
that's
running back, I think, out of somewhere.
Jeremiah Pittman or whatever. No, not Pittman. Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Julian saying should have been number 2, based on the fact that, you're talking about a guy that took a team all the way undefeated through the season and did it as a freshman, put up gaudy numbers. And what else did you want him to do?
Well, I'll go on record saying I think, and I was rooting for Fernando Mendoza to win it, because I thought he was the most deserving of the 3 or 4 others that were there. So yeah, they got it right in my book. And, the unfortunate situation is that Diego Pavia then was caught on a mic or was quoted as being kind of,
Being a sore loser.
being a sore loser, said some things that were pretty nasty. And I think that unfortunately he's a good player, but I think those things are going to dog him for a while. And I think that's, I realize that kids these days, they're young and they don't realize what they're saying. They don't understand the ramifications of what they're saying, but somebody had to get a hold of him and say, now listen to me, if you don't win this, you're going to have to be a gracious person about it. You can't go off and start F you in this and F you in that. And, you can't do that. That's very poor. That shows no class. And, because you didn't win it and you felt like you should have won it, which that's debatable. I don't think he should have won it either. You just can't go off like that. That just is a bad look. It's a bad thing for him. And I hope it doesn't hurt him in the future, but it might.
Well, here's my opinion on it. And a lot of people might disagree with me, but I think he's a punk. I can't understand how Vanderbilt kept him for that long, because Vanderbilt is an institution with some class, and this kid has none. Based on everything that I've read about him and everything that I've seen him say, zero class. He should be go back to New Mexico and play with the University of New Mexico, where you belong, because you're not representing your institution with grace and class by any means. And you haven't in your entire career. This has been the MO from every place he's been.
Right. Does this open up the opportunity for him to say, I'm going to opt out of the bowl game because I'm a sore loser and I don't want to play in this, and I think I'm going to go on to the NFL next season, and I don't need to go out there and get hit by a Hawkeye player and buckle a knee or break a tibia or something similar to that. This could open this up for him to say, I'm done. I'm not going to do this.
I hope he plays, and I hope he gets a very, very rude introduction to Xavier Wampa at some point.
Yeah, or Aaron Graves, somebody like that, just lays him out. That would be nice. I'm not saying to hurt him, just saying to say, yeah, you need to lose with grace, bud.
Yeah, you need some humility to you.
Yeah.
And it just, everything that he has done since the end of the season has rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know, maybe I'm curmudgeon, I'm old, and whatever.
He certainly hasn't helped himself, that's for sure.
He's absolutely shown no class whatsoever, and he's had. I look at Vanderbilt as kind of the Ivy League representative of the SEC. I mean, they're clearly the smartest team or smartest players in the SEC, hardest to get into. I struggle to understand how this kid survived there for 2 years now.
Yeah, well, I don't think kids are held to the standards that they used to be able to be held to, and unfortunately,
or that they're held to in other places.
Yeah, or that they're held to in other places, and I just think that we could get into this whole big long thing about social media and all that stuff, and I'm not going to do that because that is a completely different argument for a completely different show. But speaking of bad looks, Sharon Moore.
Oh yeah. That's being at the top of the mountain and throwing yourself off of it, not getting pushed off.
Yeah. Yeah. That is bad. Clearly
the dude has some mental health issues. I mean, if what I was hearing is true, that he locked himself in his girlfriend's house, started to kill himself, that's the guy needs some help.
I heard it was with a butter knife.
Well,
what's he going to cut?
Regardless of what it was, it's still that's a sure sign of a mental health issue. The guy needs to get some help.
Yeah.
And the last thing in his mind, and the last thing on everybody's mind should be whether he's coaching a football team or not.
Well, obviously he wasn't thinking about that when he was doing what he was doing, and couldn't. I guess when you feel like you're above everything else, then you feel like you can get away with whatever you want. And I think he found out that that's not the case. You can't get away with
Well,
everything. He was for a while. I mean, he was doing the risk reward situation and he was rewarded, but then the risk and the consequences of being caught were pretty severe.
Yeah. And I tend to think, again, maybe I'm showing a bias here because of my SEC hatred, but had he been in a different conference, it may not have been as big of a deal.
Well, there's been,
but I guess there have been others in that conference, but it's depends on where you're at too.
Well, there's been other instances of coaches that have done stupid things like this. I mean, Mel Tucker comes to the front of the list. I know that the Boston Celtics coach got into trouble with messing around with somebody he shouldn't have been and got fired from that. And
well, I'm not talking so much about that. I'm talking about universities that would cover it up.
You think that Michigan was trying to cover it up? You think they knew about it?
I don't think Michigan was trying to cover it up. I think they exposed it. I think there are universities out there that would have covered it up. There is one in the Big Ten that has covered up other things before. Not to mention any names where Matt Campbell went, but there have been, that's why I wonder if he was in a different conference or at a different institution, would it have been as big of a deal? I don't know. It's speculation. And
it kind of makes me wonder though, if you're the AD at Michigan and he has this personal assistant that he's paying $45,000 a year to, and all of a sudden, and a year later, she's getting $95,000, and she's hanging around an awful lot.
That's a red flag.
That to me seems like there's an issue there that maybe needs to be looked at, maybe investigated. And I wonder if it wasn't investigated and they brought him in. And I'm just speculating. This is not. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to imply that this happened. I just wondered if he was brought in and said, you need to stop this immediately. And if you don't, this is going to kill all of us. So then he went out and continued to do what he did. Michigan said, well, all right, well, we're going to step back from you and we're going to expose you. And you're not going to say anything because we didn't know about this. So that's what you get. You get what you got right here.
I don't doubt that happens a lot of places that coaches are probably given the benefit of the doubt initially of, hey, we're going to be courteous enough to tell you, we know what you're doing. You need to stop, and you need to stop now. Then if they don't, then they take action because they kind of have to. They're forced to at that point.
Yeah.
So I think that happens a lot more than we would like to think. I think there are some institutions that it wouldn't happen. I don't think you'd get that chance. Now, I don't know of any of them. I think it's probably going to be more of your lesser, non-blue bloods, the Ivy League schools, things like that, where you just can't get away with that kind of stuff because you don't have the clout that a major institution, a blue blood school has with their coaches. Those coaches have a lot of clout. They have a lot of rope to hang themselves with, so to speak. And, sometimes they don't take the warning signs when they are given the opportunity to, and that's what happens. Yeah. So I think I truly believe, like you said, I believe that happens a lot of places, not everywhere, but a lot of places where it's, you get a warning.
Yeah. And let's say most of them take that warning and say, okay, I don't want to lose my job, so I'm going to end whatever it is I'm doing that's not kosher. And, then life goes on and nothing's ever said.
Nobody's the wiser.
You got your warning and you solved your problem and you moved on and you're living the straight and narrow, so to speak. But one other thing I wanted to mention before we move off of football, but I wanted to talk about the playoff scenario that we got going on this week. There are going to be 4 games. There is one Friday night. That is Alabama at Oklahoma. And that is a 7 p.m. game on either ABC or ESPN. I'm sure they'll simulcast both at the same time. So you can watch either one. And then on Saturday, you got a triple header of playoff games. Number 10, Miami at number 7, Texas A&M. That is an 11 o'clock Central start. ABC, also ESPN. Then after that, then you have a 2:30 start with Tulane at Ole Miss. That is on TNT or True TV. And then directly after that, it's 6:30 start. James Madison at Oregon. That is also TNT and True TV. That's a 6:30 start. If I didn't mention that already. So that's the start of the playoff system. Who you got in these games? Do you want to give a prediction?
Is it more of a prediction, or do you want to know who I'm going to be rooting for?
Well, you make that determination on your own. I'm not.
First game, I'm definitely rooting for Oklahoma.
Yeah,
and there's more than just the fact that I dislike Alabama and that they shouldn't be in. It goes to family history.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of honoring our uncle who was a Sooner fan for years.
Yeah.
So I kind of root for them whenever I can. Prediction wise, I mean, Oklahoma's beat them once. I don't think Alabama's near as good as they think they are. Ty Simpson or whatever the heck his name is can say whatever he wants about they're the best offense in the country. They're not. You don't rush for -3 yards in a championship game and call yourself the best offense in the country. That's like saying Deacon Hill was the best quarterback in the country like 2 years ago. It's just there's no facts to back that up.
Well, Kirk might tell you he was.
Well, might have been best on the roster at the time, or at least so he says.
He was the best guy that we played.
Well, yeah, because nobody else was there. Anyway.
Nobody else played.
Unfortunately, I feel like it's probably going to be a situation where there's going to be a little bit of a ref show and Alabama's going to end up winning so that they can say, look, Alabama deserved to be in.
Yeah, I see that too. I kind of get the impression that there will be a lot of prejudice towards Alabama, and I think they're going to get the benefit of every call, even though it's in Oklahoma. I just can't see them eating crow if Alabama goes out and loses by 21 points. And then it's just going to fuel that. See, they shouldn't have been in that. And they don't want that. They want to justify why they put them in. They want them to win so that they can say, this is exactly why we put Alabama in.
Yep.
So
I feel that's what's going to happen. Tulane and Ole Miss. I mean, obviously I'm rooting for Tulane.
Yeah. Rooting
honestly, I could see Tulane beating them because I don't know who's Ole Miss got coaching them.
Like the offensive
half their coaching staff's gone.
Yeah,
offensive coordinator left with Kiffin, didn't he?
He might.
I don't know who's got. So I don't know what kind of mindset those guys are going to have. Are they going to have the let's just go out and win it all in spite of him, or is it going to be what are we supposed to do? We've been told what to do for 3 years now. We don't know what to do because we don't have a leader showing us what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
They're a look at the sidelines type of team. So, if they don't have that ability to read a defense, they're going to look over to the sidelines to the coach. Now, I don't know who's coaching them. I don't know how much that's going to affect them. So I do give Tulane a puncher's chance in this.
No.
Do I think that Tulane's going to win? Probably not.
Well, you never know.
I give them a puncher's chance.
Yeah, you never know. That's why they play it. I mean, do I think James Madison's going to beat Oregon? I don't. Do I think that Miami's going to beat Texas A&M? I don't. But who am I rooting for in this? I'm rooting for Oklahoma. I guess I'm rooting for Miami. I hate to because I don't like them either. I'm rooting for Tulane over Ole Miss, and I'm rooting for Oregon, I guess, over James Madison only because they're a Big Ten school.
Right. It's exactly how I would go with it too. And I do give Miami a fair shot at beating a Texas A&M. I don't think Texas A&M has played near that well over the last month of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that South Carolina game. They should have, South Carolina just imploded. I mean, you're up 31-3 or 30-3 at halftime and you lose that game. That tells me that Miami can put up points on them and Miami can beat them. Now, again, I'm not saying – I said if I was to give it a percentage chance, I'd say it's probably a 55-45 Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when it comes to the Tulane Ole Miss, I'd say probably 65-35, maybe 70-30 Ole Miss. Oklahoma, Alabama is probably a 55-45, but in Bama's favor, just because they'll want to make sure that they tell all of us naysayers that, look, they deserve to be there. And then I'd say the James Madison, Oregon, I'd say that's probably about a 15% chance James Madison can beat Oregon out in Oregon. I just don't see it happening because Oregon is one of the teams in this that has the most favorable matchup and has the least turmoil. If you think about the fact, Alabama, they've got to prove that they're there, and they may play tight. Ole Miss and has no coach. Texas A&M hasn't played very well. James, no disrespect to James Madison whatsoever, because they had a fantastic season, and I think they're a good club, and would be one of those that if this was a 24 team and they were the 12 seed and playing I don't know how you'd figure that up as 24, but so they're playing another higher seed, I would give them a very good chance of, I'd say it's a 50-50 type of thing. But against an Oregon team that I think is very good, I don't see it, because I think Iowa could beat James Madison as well, and Iowa got beat by Oregon. So take that for what it's worth.
Well, and we did say this last week. We think that James Madison is more of a product of their schedule than they are a product of beating great teams. You want to be respected, and you want to feel like you were put in because you were really deserving to be put in. Then you've got to take your 3-game or 4-game non-conference schedule, and you've got to play the Blue Bloods. You've got to start playing the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Notre Dames. You got to start playing teams like, SEC teams. You have to play Power 4 conference teams. You can't just play teams that are close and that are smaller.
And we talked about the precedent set by an Alabama getting in with 3 losses. USC deserves to be in over James Madison.
Well, certainly Notre Dame does.
Notre Dame certainly does too.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with the concept of why 2 group of 5 teams got in.
I don't want to say though that they deserve. I don't feel like James Madison doesn't deserve to be in. I just feel like that
they're not one of the
Notre Dame is a better team. And therefore, I think if you're going to put the 12 best teams in, I think you should have put Notre Dame in above James Madison. I'm not going to say James Madison didn't deserve to be in, because they certainly did deserve what they got.
They won the game, yeah.
But if I'm putting the top 12 teams in, they're not one of them.
No. And frankly, Tulane's not either.
Yeah.
But, they played their way in, and there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can say that would change it. Maybe they go out and they'll prove us wrong and both win their first round games. Who knows?
Now, we are going to talk about the Iowa Vanderbilt game in much more detail down the line, probably next week, maybe even the week after. We'll give our predictions and what we think is going to happen, all that stuff at either next week or the week after. But let's move on. We've talked probably football as much as we need to at this point. We want to get this thing wrapped up fairly quickly. We both have things to do. Let's hit Iowa basketball. Iowa women first. Both teams had a 1-1 week. Iowa went 1 loss. This is the women. We'll talk about the women. They were 1-1. Lost at Ames to Iowa State 74-69. I was led by Chit Chat Wright with 21 points, 3 assists. I was led in rebounds by Hannah Stolke with 15 to go with 10 points. She had a double-double against Iowa State. Iowa shot 43% from the field, while Iowa State shot 53%. Iowa shot 38%. Iowa State shot 33% from 3-point line. Free throws, Iowa was 6 of 12 for 50%, and Iowa State was 9 of 20 for 45%. Iowa had 32 rebounds to Iowa State's 39. Iowa had 16 assists to Iowa State's 22. Iowa had 9 turnovers to Iowa State's 12, which kudos to Iowa for only 9 turnovers. That's really good. Anything you keep under 10, really, really good. Unfortunately, Iowa put themselves into a little bit of a hole in the second half when they fell down by 17. And then they clawed back, got close, but couldn't get over the hump. We'll see that kind of trend. on the next game with the Iowa State men. We'll see that trend. One of the problems with Iowa in that game is when Ava Hayden got into foul trouble. She just didn't have. She has to bulk up a little bit if she's going to tangle with Audie Crooks down there. And I know you have words to say about Audie Crooks. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it as is. But if you want to give us your thoughts on the game,
I'm not going to say anything directly about her. More about the fact that she gets a favorable whistle, very favorable whistle. You think of a superstar like Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark didn't get that favorable whistle, and the other thing that really bugs me is, and it wasn't just Audie Crooks. There was a few times where I noticed it wasn't just her. They could have literally pitched a tent in the lane. They just stand in there. And I remember listening, you could hear it at one point. I don't know how you could hear it because it was a pretty raucous crowd, but I heard Jan Jensen yell, "She's camped in the lane," and no call. And you can't give a post that big of an advantage.
Especially one that big.
I wasn't going there.
One of the things that bothers me about this deal is, if you've noticed, and I rewound my tape, my DVR a couple different times and watched her, when they would throw her the ball under the basket, kind of down toward low,
Travels every time,
but that she couldn't do anything. She'd dribble once, dribble back, and then she'd stop and she'd hang on to the ball. She establishes her pivot foot, and then she turns around and jumps back off of that pivot foot to do her fadeaway. That is a traveling by definition. And she did it several times. When you establish a pivot foot and you lift that pivot foot while still holding the ball, because she was in her motion to do that, that is a travel. And nobody can sit there and tell me that it isn't. I'd like to, if you're a referee and you're watching this, why don't you, in the comments, tell me how what she does is not traveling, because I'd like to know.
Okay, there you go. The college basketball or any basketball official, just hear the rules and tell us whether we're right or wrong.
Go watch
agree with you.
what she did and then tell me that that's not traveling.
Yeah, she shuffles that foot back about a foot and a half, then jumps off of it.
Well, then she walks back onto that back leg, which is not usually. I mean, when you move that back leg, that is not your pivot foot. Your pivot foot's the one in front typically, because you use that one to go in a circle as long as you leave that pivot foot in one spot. Well, what she does is then once she establishes that pivot foot and she kind of goes back and forth and moves that foot back and forth. Well, that's an established pivot foot. Then she backs up and plants on the leg that pivots around. Not pivots, but the one that moves around. And then she lifts up that foot, the pivot foot, to shoot. That is a travel. I'm sorry, you can't convince me otherwise.
That's reestablishing a new pivot foot before the ball is being released.
It's traveling.
That's the way I would understand it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but I don't know. That's quibbling on small details. I realize that Iowa will not have to probably play her again until next season. And it'll be in Iowa City. Hopefully Ava Hayden learns how to either bulks up a little bit and is better. Maybe they learn to double team her and keep her from getting the ball and hope that somebody else has to beat you at the 3-point line. Because if you give her 30, you got to keep everybody else at basically a little bit of nothing to win. Now, congratulations to Iowa for coming back. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Just one loss, not going to kill a season. And right now they're 9-1 going into the next game, which we'll talk about, which they go to 10-1. I'll start with that one, or go with that one. Lindenwood came in on Saturday. Iowa 102, Lindenwood 68. Iowa was led by Hannah Stolke's 31 points, 6 rebounds. Taylor Stremel led the Hawks with 7 assists. Iowa shot 58% from the field, 38% from 3-point line, 63% from the free throw line. They out-rebounded Lindenwood 34-20. And here's the one stat that is huge. Iowa had 31 assists to Lindenwood's 13. That's a pretty significant difference between the two. Iowa, again, kept turnovers down. They only had 11, and Lindenwood had 18. So really not much of a game. Lindenwood played pretty well early, but
first quarter they played pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. Then after that, it was just too much Iowa at that point.
Too much Ava height.
Too much Hannah Stolke.
And Hannah Stolke.
Yeah. So, Journey Houston had a nice game, 10 points, 6 boards. Layla Hayes, 11 points, 5 boards. The competition gets drastically more difficult, probably as difficult as you'll get all year when you take on number 1 UConn on Saturday. And that is
where's that at?
The Barclays in Brooklyn, New York, as a 12:30 start.
Is that some type of a tournament or something? Or like classic, like Coach's Classic?
It's a Coach's Classic deal. It's not. I don't think this is going to be a situation where UConn has to come out to the Midwest and play in Kansas City or Minneapolis or someplace like that against Iowa next year. I think this is just a one-time thing. And good luck. It's going to be an uphill battle because they are beating everybody really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean
they're odds-on favorite to win it again.
How about did they beat Michigan? 18.
Oh, I thought it was like 13 or 14.
Okay. Which is probably the best team they played up to this point.
Yeah, I know they played USC and beat them by 20 something. Just on
did they play
Saturday.
Did they use CLA too?
No, just USC. They beat USC pretty bad, like 79-52 or something similar to that.
Okay.
But yeah, big game Saturday. At this point, I just want them to keep it within 20. If Iowa can keep it within 20, I know it's a defeatist attitude. I just know how good UConn is. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I don't think Iowa is a good team. I think they are a good team. It's like when you're up against the defending national champion who has reloaded and is probably as good, if not better than they were last year. It's tough.
Yeah, they beat USC by 28.
Yeah.
And they beat Michigan by 3.
No, you better look at that again. I think it's more than that.
70,
maybe they did. Maybe they did. Michigan.
It was Ohio State. Ohio State they beat by 32.
Well, they beat some of those teams like 100 and something to 30.
Yeah, they also beat Louisville by 13.
Mm-hmm.
104-39 over Xavier and 102-35 over DePaul.
Yeah. Well, good luck to the Hot Lady Hawks. 10-1, and they're off to a good start. And I think they'll do okay in conference. They're not going to win it. I don't think they have the horses to win it. They need to take care of the ball better. They have been lately taking care of the ball better, but they have to keep Chit Chat on the court. She is such a dynamic player, and she's kind of the prop that moves the boat.
Yeah, they also need to get Emily Rodriguez back. That's a missing piece that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with her.
It's back injury, some problems with her back, and it's kind of perplexing from what it sounds like. I don't know.
Well, hopefully we can get her back soon and move on to the men. Another 1-1 week, same situation, losing to Iowa State in a thriller. Iowa's led by Tavian Banks, 14 points. Cam Manio led Iowa in rebounds with 6. Bennett Sturts led Iowa in assists with 4. Iowa had a 13-point lead at one point in the first half, ended up with an 8-point lead at the half. Iowa State did outscore Iowa 19-0, extending from the first half into the second half. Iowa hung close, but wasn't able to make the plays to pull off the upset.
Yeah, we won't even get into officiating in that game because that was horrible.
Well, it's the same as was the night before. You're never going to get a call at Iowa State. You just know that. The crowd has too much of an influence. The coaches have too much of an influence over what goes on, and And that's fine. You know, it's fine if you're going to have the crowd be an influence, and that's great because Iowa can do the same thing.
I have some choice words on that too.
Well, we'll get to the next game, and you can give your bird's eye take on it. But Iowa shot 51% to Iowa State's 42%. Iowa shot 47% from the 3-point line to Iowa State's 33. Here's the discrepancy. Iowa was 60% from the free throw line, 3 of 5. Mm-hmm. Iowa State was 74% from the line, 17 of 23. Iowa out rebounded Iowa State 27-24. Iowa out assisted Iowa State 15-10.
Iowa outplayed Iowa State.
Iowa outplayed Iowa State, lost the game. Steals, Iowa State 11 to Iowa's 5. Turnovers, Iowa State had 8, Iowa had 15. So those two stats at the end were a little bit telling of how this game, if you eliminate a couple of each of those, and you may be talking about the upset.
Most telling is 17 of 23 and 3 of 5. That's the most telling. Especially when you're talking about a team that they're either shooting a 3 or they're driving to the hoop. It's not like we're sitting back taking mid-range floaters that are, nobody's really, you don't get a lot of calls on those. They're either driving to the basket or they're taking shots from outside. And one of the top 50 teams in fouls called in favor of them, I guess. I don't know how you want to say that. Against the 225th or 255th. And it's completely reversed. And I've seen that trend for the last 3 games. Huge discrepancies in free throws for the other team as opposed to Iowa. And I don't understand it.
Well,
I think is it their way of saying you got to earn your stripes, which I think is a bunch of crap, because I'm very much a person that says you call a game regardless of who's playing. You call it the right way. And, my youngest and I were at the game yesterday, and I said something about that should have been a foul. He's like, yeah, but he says they're up by 40. I said, I don't care if they're up by 40 or they're up by 400. It's a foul no matter, it's whether it's the beginning of the game or it's the end of the game. A foul is a foul. You can't detract from these guys, like, especially in situations like that where guys are coming in that don't get a lot of playing time. And then you're going to say, well, because your starters got you a 40-point lead, we're not going to call those fouls where they're fouling you and let you have the opportunity to learn as well, because we just want to get the game over with. It just doesn't feel right. That's detracting away from what those guys should be able to do. And that's kind of the point I was making, was it doesn't matter to me. If it's a foul, it's a foul. It doesn't matter if it's the last minute of the game. Going back to that whole UConn Iowa game a few years back with the illegal screen, and they're like, oh, well, you wouldn't call that in the early part of the game. Well, yeah, you should. It's a foul then, it's a foul late, and you shouldn't be calling that late in the game to determine that game. Well, it's still a foul. And that's kind of where I was at with, is like, that bothers me.
Be consistent.
Yes.
And they aren't. One side note to this game, Iowa State's head football coach was introduced, and he had some choice words, I think, I didn't catch it all. Was it beat the effing Hawks? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess next season when Iowa State comes on the schedule, then there should be some bulletin board material on the Iowa locker room.
There shouldn't need to be, but
it wouldn't hurt just for fun.
I'm wondering, we all know that Kirk Ferentz is kind of the nice guy of college football. He's not going to run the score up on you but I'm wondering if this is a situation where he says, you know what? F you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to talk crap? I'm going to put it back to you.
It wouldn't bother me at all to have it be 55-0 in the third quarter and Iowa still pouring it on.
Still throwing the ball.
Yep. Yeah. But we know that's not going to happen because that's just not the way he is. But even if it is that situation. Okay, well, let's move on from Iowa State. We'll go to the Western Michigan game on Sunday. Iowa was led in scoring by 3 players with just 13 points apiece. We scored 102 points. And
you won.
What's that?
We scored 91.
Oh, we scored 91. Okay, the women scored 102. Yeah. We scored 91 and only had 3 players with 13 points. That was our high scorers. Bennett Sturts, Alvaro Figueres, and Brendan Austin all had 13. I was led in rebounding by Tavian Banks and Isaiah Howard, who had 6 apiece. Bennett Sturts led Iowa in assists with 6. Iowa shot 56% from the field, 45% from 3, 65% from the free throw line on 11 of 17. Western Michigan shot 50% from the free throw line, 11 of 22. Another situation where they shot more free throws than we did. Iowa 36 rebounds to Western Michigan's 30. Iowa 24 assists to 11. Iowa had 6 turnovers. Very good keeping track of the ball. Very good. 6 turnovers is awesome. To 13 for Western Michigan. You were at that game. Do you want to give us your perspective of being at the game and what you thought of, tell us about the crowd, tell us about the roads, tell us about tell us the whole situation. How did you get tickets?
I came about the tickets through Des Moines Register beat writer, and I don't know if I say his name right. It's Tyler Tachman. He had 4 extra tickets, and he was going to give them away to people if, the only requirement to enter his contest was tell him who he wanted to bring and why. And my initial intent was to take both the boys. I was just going to buy a 3rd ticket while I was there if I needed to. The 3 of us had not gone to a Iowa sporting event together since 2009, when we went to the Northern Iowa football game with the 2 block field goals. So I figured it was kind of a lucky thing for them. The oldest one couldn't end up going. He was looking at houses. And so I just took me and the youngest went. The roads were fine. A lot of cars in the ditch, a lot of semis in the ditch, a lot of pretty bad looking accidents along the side of the road too. Like there was a semi that was, I remember making the comment, if there was a passenger in there, they didn't make it. That's how bad that semi was crunched. But the roads themselves were perfectly fine. Side streets getting into Iowa City were a little suspect, but not too bad. We got there about 1:30, so about a half hour before game time. Got into our seats. There literally was nobody sitting around us. We were right behind the basket on the Iowa end. I would say from a crowd perspective, I know it said that there was 10,000 people there, or 10,341, I think was the attendance. If there was 4,000, it would be very surprised. And, it was a sit on your hands crowd because the game was never in doubt. So it was hard to really get up for specific things. Kind of funny because there was a guy down to the left of us, probably a section over, and one of the Western Michigan kids was up the free throw line when they were in the first half. And you could hear it as plain as day, like you pin drop. And this guy's like, I'm heckling you. It's like I started laughing. I'm sure they probably heard me laughing about it. And of course, the kid missed the free throw. So he's like, see, I heckled you. And I was like, but it was so quiet. It was like being in church. And getting out of there was, we walked out of there, walked over to the parking ramps over by Kinnick, got in our car, left, and I think we got home back to Altoona like at 6:00. So it wasn't hard to get in and out. It just wasn't much of a crowd. It was a quiet crowd. They deserve better than that. And I understand that, like talking to Tyler, why he had extra, he still had the other 2 tickets because that other couple didn't show up too. And they said it was because of the roads. And I was like, I don't know why the roads, people talk about the roads being bad because the roads aren't. The roads in.
So you actually talked to this guy?
Yeah. Yeah, he had to transfer tickets. No, he said he was doing the game over in Pretz Row. But he came over and transferred tickets over to us and talked to us a little bit, asked us where we're from, and just, a little chit chat while we're transferring tickets over. So
Did you tell him you have a podcast?
I didn't. I'm, you know me, I'm not
Yeah.
self-promoting when I'm out in public that often. So I had my shirt on, but I had a jacket on over it because it was cold. So I should have said something, but
You got to
I
take
think,
every opportunity you can to,
well, I think our podcast is actually listed in my Twitter handle. That's my Twitter name. So he knew that from that.
Hmm.
So, I don't know.
well, thanks
Anyway.
Tyler for letting him go to the game. I'm sure he and
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
the
have thanked him
youngest
since
enjoyed it.
then.
Good. Yeah. Good. Merry
Oh
Christmas
yeah.
to you.
He definitely enjoyed it. He had a great time. He always just enjoys going and doing stuff with me. And, you know, I would love to have had both boys there. And I did offer to the other one as well, but just so happens that he was house hunting at the time and said, I just can't do it this time. So, all right, we'll figure out another time. I think once the conference season starts, crowds will pick up a little bit, but I really would love to see the crowds get, you know, even 2/3 of what a women's crowd is now would be beneficial for that team. Now, again, I feel like it probably will once conference season kicks into gear, because the competition level kicks up, the name recognition level kicks up. You know, nobody cares going to see Western Michigan. No offense to Western Michigan. You're a 5-5 team that I'm not even sure how you got to be 5-5, because from that team that I saw yesterday would have struggled to beat some high school teams.
Yeah. Yeah. And the weather probably wasn't the greatest. It was really, really cold. We had a pretty good snowstorm the day before. I know the eastern side of Iowa City was pretty treacherous for a while. And so, you know, I'm not going to make excuses. People should have shown up for it. You drove all the way from basically Bondurant. So, I mean, yeah, people should have shown up to it. And I hope that they do down the line. I don't know why they wouldn't. Once football season is over, the bowl game gets played and football wraps to the end. There's no more real talk about that for the fall season or for the winter season being over. I don't know why you couldn't pack that place. The only problem I can see, and it really shouldn't be an issue, would be sometimes the game times are a little bit tough for people to get to. And that's just the nature of the beast. And unfortunately there's really not a whole lot you can do about it, because if you start the games at 6 o'clock, people can't get there from their jobs. If they leave their jobs at 5, it's hard to get there, especially if you live in like the Des Moines area. You'd have to leave your job early to get there. And then if you started at 8, it's pretty late by the time the game's over. And by the time you get home, it's late. People don't want to go. So really the optimum time to have a weekday game would be a 7 o'clock start. And it doesn't happen very often. Most of them are either 6s or 8s.
And I understand that, but I think back to the 80s and 90s when they were filling that place up and they were still playing games on weeknights. You know, I think right now it's still the after effects of fan fatigue.
Yeah.
People are having basically a wait and see attitude. I mean, let's call it like it is. We've been enjoying watching this team play. They're a lot different style than what we're used to, but in the end, as of right now, they still have not beaten a quad 1 or quad 2 team yet.
So beating Ole Miss was not, it's not a quad
3.
Really?
I guess
they must be terrible then.
It might have been a quad 2 at the time, but they may have dropped because they lost another game that they shouldn't have or something. And
Maryland's not.
No, Maryland was certainly doing a quad 2.
They're terrible too. Yeah.
Although they played Michigan fairly well for a while. You know,
but ended up getting beat
by 25.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no,
next game. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I get that people are having kind of that wait and see attitude with this team, but believe me when I tell you, they play hard, and it's not just noticeable on TV. I noticed it there. I mean, they're well coached. They're going to fight every possession. Now, granted, when they were up by 50 and the reserves were in, I think the defense lacked a little bit, but yeah, that's not a big deal. But I think, you know, and the other point I want to make real quick on this is Bennett Sturt's only played 24 minutes in that game. That is unheard of.
Yeah, that's going to bring his average way down.
Yeah.
To like 38 and a half.
But I think he's realizing that he doesn't have to play him the entire time.
Yeah. Well, when you get up
And
by
that
50,
he needs to give them, he's got the opportunity 2 more times to give him some rest before conference season kicks in, and then he's better be ready to play 39 to 40 minutes a game.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Because next game is in Des Moines, and they're playing Bucknell on Saturday, the 20th. So that's a 5:00 start, I believe. And
I'd like to have gone to that, but tickets were really expensive for that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are going to watch because it's Des Moines area. And then I believe they play University of Massachusetts Lowell, whatever that is.
Lowell the following week.
The following week on a Monday.
Yep.
So it's like 9 days later. But we'll talk about that one in time. So right now 9-2, and I have a feeling they'll beat Bucknell, make it 10-2. Probably beat UMass. Lowell make it 11-2 going into the hardcore, and I believe they start out at home with UCLA.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see who. I haven't checked the conference schedule.
I'm pretty sure they start out with UCLA at home after the. And I think UCLA can be beaten. I think they're a pretty good team, but
yeah,
I think they can be beaten. You get them at Iowa City on a cold night, they might not. They might say, "Why are we here?" and let's get out of here as soon as we can. And they may just go through the motions. And Iowa might put a beating on them like they did, like Iowa did to Maryland. That'd be nice to see.
I'm after watching this team for 11 games now. I'm not going to count them out against
anything.
A whole lot of teams. Now, Michigan, I'd say, there's very little, but most of the Big Ten teams, it's UCLA at Iowa, and then Iowa at Minnesota. And then we've got Illinois and Purdue.
Yay.
Which I think the Illinois game's in Iowa City. The Purdue game's in West Lafayette. So
we'll get them at home, though, at some point late in the season.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So,
well, I don't have anything else.
I don't count these guys out in very many games.
No,
but they don't stand a chance in.
I like
the only one. Michigan, maybe Purdue.
I like this team. I like the direction that it's headed. I just hope that when he's established himself as a predominant Big Ten school, Big Ten coach, that then the upper echelon recruits start to see that. I love some of the younger guys. Tate Sage is going to be fantastic when he's pretty good now, but I think if you get him in a couple of years when he's had a chance to be in the system and has some good guys around him, I think this team is going to be really, really solid.
And I tell you what, watching Trey Thompson in warmups,
I wish he'd play him.
Dude barely missed.
Yeah, I wish he'd play him because I just hope that he understands. I hope Trey Thompson understands that he's needed. He will be needed, this team. Maybe not this year, but down the line, he's going to be really, really solid for Iowa. And I'd like to see him at least get in a little bit just to keep us, just to wet the beak, just to let him know that you can still get in there.
You lose a complete entire year if you play him. Nope. You're not. No.
You don't get to play any games now?
Nope. Not the same as football.
No. I thought you could play in.
You cannot play at all. You play 2 seconds a game, you burn a red shirt.
Okay. So then he's probably not going to play all year then.
Yeah.
He's going to red shirt.
I guess.
I hope he understands that coach is doing it for a reason and why he's doing it.
I think based on his body language and what I saw, he looked like he was having a good time out there. Didn't look like he was, moping or down in the mouth or anything. He was always like in the huddle with a smile on his face and, encouraging the team. So I think, that's the right attitude to have. I hope that he just understands that, we had you reclassified, but we wanted you in here to learn the system so that when what would have been your first year, you hit the ground running.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I just hope he doesn't get discouraged and hit the transfer portal. I would hate to see a kid with a talent like him. And I hope that Ben's in his ear saying, son, I want you to be here. We want you to be here. We've got great plans for you in the future. We think you can be fantastic here. We need you to just bear with us. We're going to get you in, but it may not be this year, but we're going to do everything we can to make your playing time here is the best we can.
And I think, and I'm looking at it, I was like, gosh, imagine him and Tate Sage and Cooper Koch together as your core.
Yeah.
Because Tate Sage can play guard, can be a guard. Whereas I think Trey and Cooper are both like the 3, maybe a stretch 4. Might be able to get Trey Thompson as a stretch 4. Doesn't look like a post up player to me though. But you could put Tate Sage as a 2, and you just have to get a point guard in there.
Well, we're going to need a 5 next year.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. Is Cam Mania? I can't remember. Is he just a junior?
Yeah. The only person that we're losing,
Bennett Sturts.
Bennett Sturts, I think, is the only one, isn't it?
No, Tavion Banks, I believe.
Oh, no, Tavion is not. Brendan Housen.
Oh, yeah. I thought Tavion was a senior.
No, I think he's a junior.
Oh, you need to look that up.
Sophomore.
No. He's not a sophomore. I can tell you that.
Tavion Banks is a senior. Okay, my mistake. It's somebody else was a sophomore that I was like, couldn't believe. Was it Isaiah Howard? Isaiah Howard.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're losing Brendan Housen, Tavion Banks, and Bennett Sturts.
Yeah. So I don't know if Trevin Urich is the is the guy that we want. I think he's going to be good. I think it's going to be another year, but I think they need to go after somebody either in the transfer portal or something for that center position.
Yeah, and I think they could probably survive with Cale Combs as a point.
Yeah, he was okay. Yeah.
So,
well, okay. Well, we need to wrap this up. It's 55 minutes and 51 seconds in. We need to get going.
Yep, that is true. Yeah, that's all I've got. As usual, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Check us out on social media. Check out our merchandise shop if you want to help there, or want to support us out and about. It's good quality stuff. I actually thinking about buying some for Christmas as well. So I definitely want one of those quarter zips. Those are nice. Other than that, yeah, I think that's it. Get out of here on the Go Hawks, and back at it next week.
Yep.
All right.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.